Welcome to You Make the Difference. I'm Wanda Walker, and I have as my guest today Maria Pedro. Maria has a ministry called In La Gloria, which means...
In the glory.
That's right. Now, Maria, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in California, but I presently live in the state of Alaska, but I'm stationed in Oaxaca, Mexico.
Wow. Okay, and so tell me about your ministry.
Well, you want all that in a nutshell, right?
I
do. The ministry is presently in Oaxaca, Mexico. We also have a site in Nicaragua where we used to live, my children and I. But we are now focusing on Oaxaca, Mexico, village ministry, evangelism, and then we also have an orphanage that we've just started this last year.
Yes, and so in the orphanage, you have abused children.
Well, our priority
is
will
abused
be to
children.
serve physically and especially sexually abused children.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you have orphans and abused children.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Now, you were telling me that there's a certain way that you minister to abused children. Tell me about that.
Well, the thing is that I have to just mention, just briefly, my life. My parents, were not Christian.
Yes.
And as that happens, so much the enemy comes in and destroys lives. And as a little child, I was sexually abused quite frequently. And by the age of 5, we were finally taken out of the home. But the damage was done, so to speak. And I went into foster care, a wonderful home, but the problem was that the enemy had lied to me already about a lot of things, and I suffered from the shame and the guilt and all the lies and grew up a very crooked path.
Yes. And so tell me where that path led you.
Well, that path, by the time I was 11, I was doing drugs and drinking and got involved in gang activity, at a very young age.
Yes.
And I remember when I dropped out of school that I was in the top 5 of the girls for gang activity in our area. And so it was just a pretty messed up life. And then, of course, I tried to fix it.
Yes.
Met the right guy 3 times.
Yes.
And I went through a lot of physical abuse and also more rape.
Yes. So rape by your husband?
Yes, and by others and at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once that cycle is started, it seems that it keeps going, right?
Yes, yes. And I really believe, the Word says so much of it is passed from generation to generation, and until Jesus comes in with His blood and breaks that, it's there.
Yes.
It's there.
And so people who have been sexually abused as children oftentimes enter into a lifestyle that is promiscuous, right?
Promiscuous, or it could be the opposite. There's different sides to that.
Tell me what do you mean by that?
Because there's a lot of women that, because of the sexual abuse as a child, some of them become homosexuals because of their hate for men or their fear of men. Others don't get into relationships very well at all, and sometimes even get married to somebody they care a lot about, but that area of their relationship has been damaged. Yes.
Now tell me, where were you living when you got into the gang?
California, Oregon.
Really?
Yeah.
And so how old were you when that happened?
Well, the last thing that happened actually led me to the Lord, and I was in my 30s.
Okay, but you started in the gang when?
And mostly in California it was there, but in Oregon is where I acted out more, I guess you could say.
Okay, so what age?
So, gosh, I don't know. It was kind of always there.
Because
really? My family was in it, so it was kind of always there, and you were kind of involved whether you wanted to be or not, and sometimes you were forced to be involved. So it's not something I can say, it started at that point. It was a lifestyle for my family.
Well, tell me how you overcame that lifestyle.
Oh, thank you for asking one. This is my favorite.
Yes.
Well, what happened was life got really tough, as God lets it happen. And the first little hint that things were going to change, though I didn't take it as a positive, was a man came to rent a room in my home that was a Christian. And the first night he came, put his Bible on my coffee table, and I thought I was going to die. What's this guy do? Oh no, one of them.
Yes.
And that was my attitude. But God sent him because there was a couple months later, they were shooting up my house all the time, and he dodged a bullet at one point, but he still came and talked to us even when he moved out about the Lord, and we still were stubborn.
Yeah.
But he had to move away, and one day I was being shot at. They came, just like the movies, they
Yes.
came pulled in front of the house, and the window came down. I saw the gun, not very far, so many feet, and looked right down the pistol, and he shot at me 4 times, and I wasn't hit.
Oh, wow.
And police came and everything, and they're trying to find the bullets, got the casings, witnesses, everything. My phone rings, and it's this guy. It's 2 p.m. The same guy calling from Los Angeles, and he said, I'm at work. He said, but I just felt impelled by the Holy Spirit that I needed to call you right now. And so I took a break. And he says, what's going on? I said, what's going on? I said, where's your God? You told me your God would protect me and my family. He's going, well, wait a minute. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And then I told him, I said, well, he told me first. He said, well, I'm supposed to tell you a message from God. And I said, what? He said, God said to tell you, and I don't know why, but there's 4 big angels in front of your house, big ones. And I said, yeah, well, they just did a drive-by again, and they shot at me, and it was 4 times, Wanda.
Yes.
4 shots.
Yes.
And anyway, then I saw that there was a positive God.
Right.
For the first time in my life, I knew there was a positive side to this God that was always angry at me for all my messed up life.
Yes.
And that was the first time. And then I ran off to Alaska. I ran.
Yes.
Got to Alaska, and through a little church there, I met Jesus.
That is good. Now, I
yeah.
want to go back to something because I said something that I want to make sure that it's taken right.
Mm-hmm.
Like when children are sexually abused, a lot of times it does carry them on a path to
Promiscuity.
Thank you. And I wanted to say that because I know that some people have gone down that path.
Yes.
And I think that it'll help them understand where that came from. But being raped is certainly not part of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally different.
But it does seem like the enemy puts something together and feeds off of those experiences to bring other experiences like that into the person's life.
Yeah, familiarity, familiar spirit, familiar territory. There's a lot of words for it.
Yes.
And it's like one spirit sees the other. There's that fear of men, and then there's the man who's a predator many times needs to feel dominant in his life, and so he dominates this woman who has fear.
Yes.
And it's not always so obvious, but the enemy's behind it all.
Okay, yes. So now tell me, like in the orphanage, tell me how you minister to someone who's had that experience.
Well, our first priority is to teach them about God, about Jesus, so that they'll know that there is hope. Because I can talk, all day long. I can tell them my experience, from a worldly view.
Yes.
And we have many that, are trained even to help us with that. And I went through all that in my personal life. Until Jesus comes in and starts healing the wounds,
Right.
literally healing the wounds and helping us to learn to forgive, for example. And we don't forget, but we forgive. And learn to have healthy boundaries.
Yes.
And learn that we have a new future with Him. One of my biggest things for me was that I felt like I never got to be the virgin wife. And in my culture, that's very important.
Yes.
And so for these children, they need to know that everything's going to be okay because now you're a new creation.
That's right.
Through Jesus Christ, and you're going to wear that white gown.
That's right.
And in the spirit, we wear it now. We don't have to wait till we die and go to heaven. You know, it may not be at the altar, or it might be, I don't know. But the thing is that we are cleansed, purified, and the enemy's work, the lying that Satan does, that deception, to let you think that you're dirty, full of shame, all of those things, guilty, a little child feeling guilty.
Yes.
All that has to end.
That's right.
All of it.
That's right. Because the truth is that we have the righteousness of Christ.
Yes, we do.
And we are
do.
pure, and we are clean even now.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Now, tell me how you decided to go on the mission field, how you heard the call of the Lord to go on the mission field.
Well, I guess you can tell from what I've said so far, I'm a very stubborn person. And so, yeah, I'm in church, I'm saved, you know, and God's using me in my own church, and I'm happy with that.
Yes.
And the pastor's wife stood up in front of the whole church and said they were going on a mission trip and that I was going to go. And I said, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I did not want to leave. I had small children. I had a lot going on, and I was not going to a country I'd never even knew anything about, which was Nicaragua. And anyway, so yes, I went because in my heart I wanted to be obedient to God, so I went. And I knew they needed an interpreter, so I went. But God did such mighty things, and it turned out by the last 3 days of that trip, I was ministering in front of a church of over 500, and God was giving me visions and giving me words for the people. And I had never done that in any big church or out of my church. And so God healed me.
Yes.
You know, from my fear and whatever else was going on. And that's really how I started ministering. And the pastor told me before I left, he says, God says that you're coming back and you're going to be an evangelist and a missionary. And of course I said, no, I won't.
No. I've got all these children, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just took them with me.
Yes. And so you're still part of that ministry there, aren't you?
Yes.
Tell me about that ministry.
The ministry in Nicaragua, we built a church.
Yes.
There was no church in the area, so we built a church, and we did a lot of feeding programs and a lot of counseling. Where we were stationed at the foot of the mountain that slid during Hurricane Mitch, and 2 out of 3 villages were totally wiped out. Over 6,000 people died, and you know, families were broken. There was people that lost over 60 family members, and they'd be the only line of blood left in their family. So to get from there to find hope again, find a life again, it takes God.
It does.
And so they needed God in their life. They needed to hear about Jesus, and still today, it's still going. Wonderful pastors are there, and another ministry is there. They're doing a wonderful work there.
So you're in 2 countries, or are you in more than 2?
No, that's it. Well, there's this country called Alaska.
Yes.
Which many think is part
in
of
the
Canada.
United States.
Yeah. And we do ministry in Alaska too. We have, and we've gone down the Yukon by boat, and very similar actually to rural Mexico in the sense that you have villages where the cultures are different, and even language.
Yes. The Lord's taken you through many adventures, hasn't he?
Yes, many adventures.
He has. Tell me some of the miracles that you've seen on the mission field.
How much time do we have?
Well, we have a good bit of time, so you feel free.
Well, the very first miracles, actually, where I felt like I actually saw miracles tangible miracles before my eyes, was that trip to Nicaragua. And he was wooing me back, is what he was doing, right? So on that particular night, the first night, I prayed for the pastor, and God healed his heart. I told him exactly what was wrong with his heart. God gave me a huge vision. Told me what was wrong with the pastor's heart. And I said, someone here has the section of their heart where there's a little door that's not working. And I didn't know a whole lot.
Yes.
But I knew this little door wasn't working. It looked white in the vision, and the rest was red. And I said, the blood's not flowing in there. And they said, it's the pastor.
Wow.
And he was a big man,
yeah,
tall, and I had to pray for him, and I was like, but God healed him anyway. It didn't matter who I was, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Him. It's him. And another night, a woman came in, and her body was very crooked. She was very crippled. And when I prayed with her, you literally could hear her body straightening up and the bones going into place.
Wow.
Yeah. And then over the years, we've seen people that have been deaf. A woman deaf her entire life, had 11 children in Nicaragua. And we'd gone there just to ask if we could do a little Bible study out in front of their house and ask for permission. And then someone had asked me to pray for her. And I did, and when I went back the next time to the village, the whole village comes out.
Yes.
And I go, wow, they all want to come to the Bible study. But what it was they wanted me to hear her testimony. Now, she hadn't talked all her life much either because, you don't hear, you don't
Right.
talk. So she came up to me, and she said, she was trying to say, you prayed for me, and this is what happened. And she said, Pop, Pop, Mama, Mama. In other words, her husband told me, you translated, and said that when you prayed with her, she said her ears popped.
Yes.
And that she could hear. And he said now she hears the children going, Mama, Mama, and she gets excited every time. And the kids thought it was funny because she dropped a pot on the cement floor and almost went through the ceiling. It scared her so bad because she never heard such loud noise.
Wow.
So that's how God works. He just
It
can
is.
take anybody, no matter how long they've been sick, how bad their illness is, their blindness, their deafness, whatever, God can fix it.
Yes.
Just like that.
Yes. And I've been listening to the Head of the Year prophecies, and it's talking about how we're going to see so much more of those things happening. It's going to be a year of evangelism. It's going to be a year of the prophetic, and it's going to be a year of healing. So it's going to be power evangelism, where we don't just preach the word's demonstrated in power.
Yes, praise the Lord.
And so you're seeing that already. And you've seen that how many years? All your life?
Well,
since you started
since
ministering.
I started ministering,
Wow.
So up to this day, I mean, we see people. Probably the most recent was right before I left Mexico. A woman in her 80s received Jesus and was blind and in severe pain. And the next morning, she woke up. And she usually yelled at everybody and didn't want them praying in her house or anything.
Yes.
So she woke up the next morning, and they said first thing was she was calm. That was unusual, and she allowed them to pray and read the Bible. And she said that she had a dream that she had no pain. She was cleaning the house and everything, and woke up to no pain in her body at all, absolutely no pain. The interesting thing is 2 hours later, she lay there and told her family, I'm going now. I'm going to heaven. I'm going to go be with the Lord.
And she did?
And she laid peacefully. Now, when I left, she was still alive, Sister Wanda, but she looked like she was beginning stages of death.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now, now tell me a little bit about your family life. I know you had 12 children. Tell me about
I do.
that.
12 beautiful children.
12 beautiful children.
20 beautiful grandchildren.
Yes.
And one precious great-grandson. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what they do.
Well, they were in Nicaragua. 7 of them were in Nicaragua with me.
You trained them, didn't you, to do ministry?
God did.
Oh, okay.
They just followed me around, kind of had to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But tell me about that.
Well, when they lived in Nicaragua, they first of all, I homeschooled them. I already had been homeschooling the older ones. And so they'd take their backpacks and go out to the pastures with the animals and do their homeschooling work and come back. And so they got to study and continue their education. And they did various things. One of my sons picked up the guitar one day and started playing. None of us played music. And I had been praying for someone to come and do worship.
Yes.
And now 8 of them have instruments, sing, play different instruments. And some of them, of course, now are their mission field is their children or, whatever.
Yes.
But, they still, love the Lord, of course, and serve the
Right.
Lord. But some of them feel they're called into full-time ministry. One of my daughters is studying to be a paramedic. She's a fireman and a medic, studying to be a paramedic so she can go out on the mission field at the orphanage there and work in that specifically. So that's an example.
Now, you've written a book, right?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
I just happen to have it here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is it. It's called From a Missionary's Heart to Yours.
Yes.
And it's a compilation of poetry that I've written over the years and paintings that I've done and pictures that many have taken over the years on the mission field. allegories, different stories, but all of it, to glorify God and encourage people.
Yes.
That, yeah, we can make it.
So you're an artist too.
Well, not really, but I did these.
And they're very good. I saw them. They're good.
Thank you.
Now, if you wrote the poetry.
Yes, I did.
So share with us some of the poetry.
You mean read one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. This one. Put my eyeballs on. I'm not healed in that area yet. Yeah. Well, this one's called Before Your King.
Yes.
And the picture is a team that we had working together, half the United States, half down there. We take teams. So this was our morning devotions. When you awake before the dawn, you can go to that secret place, like a curious, wandering fawn, moving at a light, joyful pace. Run in spirit as you kneel. Seek the door to the above. No matter how you feel, you will find the Father's love. Enter into his throne room. He will reach out his scepter as you do. Like a bride moving towards a groom, my daughter, he waits for you to look upon the king who places his robe upon the queen. He wants to see you dance and sing as no other he has ever seen. Draw close to your God every day, he who frees us from pain and sin. Talk to him and hear what he has to say. Now, go out into the world again. Take his love outside your door. Give it to those you meet. For tomorrow, will he not bring you more as you again worship at his feet?
Yes.
Isn't that true?
It is. And we're going to put up on the screen your information, so if people want to help you in any way, they'll be able to contact you. And I guess that's the same information they would need to order a book?
Yes. The book should be out by I forgot, November 30th.
Yes.
And also, if they're interested in going on a mission trip, we take individuals and form teams. We have people here in the United States that do like an orientation and prepare them, work with them to go down. We, always looking for professionals that have something to offer, people that just want to love on the people or the children there.
Yes.
And then we also are always, of course, needing funds because it's, it is a little spendy to run an orphanage in a foreign country. Yeah.
Now, describe for me the villages that you work in. Is it one village or more than one village?
No, there's many villages.
Tell
and we're
me
in a
about
very
that.
Okay, we're in a very interesting part of Mexico. I was going to say the United States of Mexico, and the fact that Oaxaca has more languages and more tribes than anywhere else in that country. I can go to villages and not understand a word because they speak their dialects, and Zapoteco, Mije, there's many of them, and many derivatives of them.
Yes.
And we go into those villages, and the saddest thing, Wanda, is that we go into those villages and there are no churches. There's many times no pastors. They've never seen a missionary and evangelist, even from their own country, a lot of them. And the written word is not there. And they're so hungry for all of that. A pastor took me to one of the mountains. I was on a mountain, and he showed me a higher mountain and other mountains. He said, Sister Maria, he says, you tell the people in your country that for 200 miles here, there's not one church. We're it. I can't do it. I'm not to do it. I can't do it all. This is where God has me. They all need Bibles. They literally cry when we give them boxes of New Testaments. They literally cry.
Yes.
Because they're getting the written word.
Yes. And I wonder, a lot of us have more than one Bible in our home. Mm-hmm. I mean, how would we do that? How would we send Bibles to Mexico?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is the English Bibles won't do much good.
Yeah, that's true.
I got plenty of those to read for me.
Yeah.
They've been sent. But the best way, honestly, the best way is to provide funds, because we can buy them at $4 a piece in Mexico City, and a dear brother in the Lord, he brings them right to the door for us. That's the best way.
Yes.
And sometimes people do have Bibles already that are in Spanish and they want to donate them, and so we have a place that those can be shipped to, so that when our donations go down, they can go with the donations. And the other thing, real quick, that I want to say in that area is that we collect eyeglasses.
Okay.
New eyeglasses, new used eyeglasses, prescription, doesn't matter how odd they are, there's somebody that needs them down there. And everywhere we go, we take eyeglasses and check eyes so that people can read the word and do other things, like they're weaving or whatever they do. And we do that all year. Last year we gave away probably over 1,000.
Yes.
1,000, yeah.
Now, you operate in the prophetic.
Anytime God wants.
Anytime God wants. Tell me some stories about when God has operated through you in the prophetic.
Well, probably the best example is that there are times where a church or a village, you go, you don't know anybody there. You know, not really.
Yes.
And they all want to come to the altar. I mean, they want everything. And so you're standing there and there's 300 people. You have no clue about their lives. So I have to depend on God. I can't make stuff up.
Right.
I got to depend on God.
Yes.
And I don't have time to go to each person and say, what would you like prayer for? And they're crying, you know. And so many times God will give those prophetic words of knowledge.
Yes.
And he'll give me a vision or just, you know, the words to speak to them. Place my hand where I wouldn't even know to place it and heal a body. No, that's probably the best example, though there are many, like we talked about, where you hear something specific. And for this one person that you're praying with in this one place is the woman that was deaf. But the thing is that we want to reach as many as we can with using all the giftings and all the tools that God has for everyone.
Yes.
So he'll use dreams, visions. He does give me those also to share.
So if somebody wanted to enter into the prophetic in a more powerful way, what would you suggest?
Ask and he will give it to you.
Ask.
And believe that he will give it to you no matter what your past is. You heard my past. It doesn't matter your past.
Yes.
He's going to bring you to a place with him when you go before the king. He'll give it to you.
That's right. He loves us all.
He does.
And it's his desire. He wants us all to prophesy.
Yes, he does.
And so,
especially in these last days.
Yes, and that gifting is available to us. And we're going to do power evangelism, aren't we?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
well, I would just like to thank everyone for watching You Make the Difference. And I know you've enjoyed hearing from Maria.
Thank you, sister.
And hearing about In the Glory Ministries.
In La Gloria
Ministries. And I just encourage you to go to the website.
Yes.
And find out more about this ministry and let the Lord lead you on how you can help in this ministry. That's
Facebook,
right.
by the way, Facebook, most people nowadays,
Facebook.
Facebook.
And remember, you make a difference when you carry the presence of the Lord in your life. Thank you for watching.
Got a promise from heaven. It's a year of replevin. Got a promise from heaven.